Welcome to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. In each episode, we're going to bring you insightful interviews and discussions with top restoration industry leaders. We're also going to delve into their business, the strategies that made them successful, and most importantly, the valuable lessons they learned along the way. I'm your host, Clinton James. I'm also the Chief Marketing Officer at Water Restoration Marketing. We're a digital marketing agency dedicated to helping restoration companies nationwide secure more high-value water jobs. Now, this show, it aims to provide you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the restoration industry. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. Having a day. I'm your host, Clinton James, Chief Marketing Officer over at Water Restoration Marketing. It is my pleasure today to be joined by Lyn Askin. Now, Lyn is a certified EOS Implementer and an exit planning advisor to a number of very successful businesses, my agency being one of them. Lyn, thank you for joining us today.
This is my pleasure. I'm excited to be here with you.
Awesome. I met Lyn a few years back at a conference, and Lyn put this book in myself and my business partner's hands. This is Traction by Gino Wickman. Am I saying his name right? Yeah, Gino Wickman.
That's correct.
It really has been a game changer for our business the last few years as we look to grow. So one of my goals with this podcast is not only to bring on people in the restoration space, talking about their stories, best practices for having a thriving restoration business, but it's also to bring in people from the outside that can provide value so that people get everything that they want to get out of growing their company. So if you're not familiar with Traction, it introduces the Entrepreneurial Operating System. So it's referred to as EOS, which for me has kind of like been a framework for us to get from where we were to where we want to be in terms of the business vision. And it also really has helped us from an operational standpoint. But I know Lyn is going to do a much better job of describing what EOS is. So Lyn, can you give the audience kind of a high-level overview of exactly what EOS is?
Nah, you nailed it. You got it. No, that's it. So EOS is a business framework, but what it is really just a simple set of practical tools that'll help you get more of what you want from your business. Obviously, we think of EOS as helping people get better at three things. I want to help your audience get better at vision, traction, and healthy. And by vision, what I mean is I want to make sure that you and your leadership teams are 100% on the same page with where you're going and how you're going to get there. By traction, I mean, let's instill discipline and accountability so that no matter where you look, you see people executing on that vision. And by healthy, I just mean making you and your leadership team a more cohesive, functional, fun-loving team that actually likes to work together, because let's be honest, sometimes we're not. And so, we sort of find that entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial kind of companies are all built about the same. Like we all tend to be wrestling with 136 simultaneous issues, and it's a little bit of chaos. And we find, to the extent that we can help you really focus in and strengthen just six simple key areas of your business, you can have a better business and live a better life. So it's a framework. I think you described it really well. We all start our businesses because we have this plan and this dream of freedom and financial freedom and time off and all that stuff. And quite honestly, it's not really like that at all for most of us. And my mission and my goal is to help more businesses achieve that original dream you had when you started this business, that vision you had for it. Remove the chaos, help you organize your human capital and get your team kind of all rowing in the same direction and achieving the same goals that you all have.
So one of the things that you mentioned is where we're at when we start our businesses, right? Because everybody has a vision for what they want their business to look like 3 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out. I'm sure when you grew up, went to school, started your entrepreneurial journey, EOS probably wasn't what you had envisioned for yourself. So tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial background and then your path to becoming an EOS implementer.
Oh gosh, this is great. So I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I grew up in a little farmhouse in Montana, and I'll be honest, we had a lot of love in our house, but not a lot of money. And I believe that made me entrepreneurial real early. I wanted the things that the other kids had, and to get those things, I had to buy them myself. So I never had a pair of Levi's or a pair of Nikes or any of that stuff. And that's tough on a young kid. But it made me stronger, and it made me entrepreneurial. So I had a paper out when I was 8 or 9 years old. I started a mobile disc jockey business in my teens. I started building computers in my early 20s. I built one of the first online auctions in 1995.
Ooh, you're dating yourself now.
Launched an e-commerce store in 1996 and 97. And then I began building websites and helping people with our online marketing, and built a pretty good marketing agency over the next 20, 25 years. But despite that sort of success, I had the same challenges that everybody else had, Clinton. I had a lack of clear vision about who we were and who we served. Had maybe a lackluster team commitment, probably because of that lack of clear vision about where we were going. And I had a lack of discipline and accountability straight across the board, all the way to the top. And so,
and by the way, Lyn, you're not alone, because those are really some of the same challenges that we were experiencing prior to implementing EOS, and also bringing you on as our implementer there. So, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, I think that's challenges that all of us face. And then, ultimately, I had a pretty good business, maybe succeeding in spite of myself, and doing okay there. But in 2020, Clinton, I had the wake up call of all wake up calls. I was outside. I was working on a fence that a hurricane had come through Louisiana and tore down our fence. I was trying to put that fence back up, and I collapsed in my yard. Had a massive bilateral pulmonary embolism, and my wife obviously raced me to the hospital. Driving a speed that was probably neither safe nor prudent, but got me to the hospital. But all I could think about as I was laying there, essentially dying, was, what kind of mess did I just leave my wife and my son? My wife is going to have to go down to my office. She's going to have to fire all the team. She's going to lose all of our clients. And she's going to have to lock the door behind me and clean up a giant mess. Because, Clinton, I didn't have a business. I had a job. I had this thing that kind of made enough money to survive, but it wasn't a real business, because if I had died that day, my business would have died with me.
That's powerful.
Thank God I survived.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you survived.
But I knew that I had to do something different for my family, and I had to build a company that could live on without me, whether I was there or not. And I started listening to some podcasts, reading some books, and I remembered a book that was on one of my shelves that I bought in 2014, and I pulled that book out again, and it was Traction. And I read that, and I knew this is the framework that I needed in my life. And I tried to self-implement and struggle with that a bit, is maybe an understatement. And then I hired a professional EOS implementer. And Clinton, the transformation in our business was remarkable. Over the next year and a half, we 3x'd our revenue, we 7x'd our profit. We grew from 10 employees to 27. And maybe even more importantly than that, I was able to take myself out of the day-to-day operations, because I built a great leadership team, and I put the right people in the right seats, and I had people to do the jobs that I had been doing myself. And I was able to free myself up to do the visionary things that I needed to do as a company, ultimately leading to a successful sale of my company. And so about a little over a year ago, I was able to sell my business, build that legacy for my family, and I just fell in love with the entire process. I fell in love with EOS. I fell in love with all of it, and decided that, my next step in my future is to help other people have that same journey, to be able to build something that was worth something, and build something that they didn't have to kill themselves to operate, and to build great leadership teams so that these businesses can basically run without you. So this is, obviously I've drank all the EOS, the orange Kool-Aid, or the, call it EOS, the gold champagne, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I drink it all. I love this system, and I love helping people put this system in place.
Well, I'm not trying to be the biggest EOS fanboy or the big Lyn Askin fanboy here, but we've also seen the same growth since we've implemented EOS. We've seen almost double our headcount. We've seen a double in revenue for our business in the last 12 months. And a big part of that is the structure that we've created through implementing EOS. Now, we're an agency. Our audience, however, they are restoration companies, restoration business owners and team members. So we'd like to think that our specific industry or our specific niche has very, very specific challenges, but a lot of these businesses have the exact same challenges as they're looking to scale. Knowing home service businesses the way that you do, what do you think are some really important ways that EOS can help a home service business that's looking to scale up?
Yeah, well, EOS, just so you know, EOS is industry agnostic. This is a framework that my job as your implementer is to make fit you. I'm not trying to squeeze you into a box, and I'm not trying to make you, force you into this thing. But number one, I want to make sure that we create a great vision for your company. Because if we can build a great vision that we can all see and we all know exactly where we're going and exactly how we're going to get there, the odds of that happening are just so much greater. Right. And so, number one, we're going to start by building a great vision. We're going to build a great set of core values. We're going to build your core target, core focus. We're going to build your 10-year target. We're going to build your 3-year picture, your 1-year plan. We're going to create a plan for the next 90 days for your business. And then we're going to take a look at your people. And we want to make sure that we're putting the right people in the right seats in your business, because quite frankly, you can't achieve a great vision without great people.
100%.
Now, every company kind of determines great people differently, and I'll get rid of all those terms like rock stars, superstars, A players, top quartile, and we're going to determine what's the right kind of person for your company. And then we're going to dig into data, and we're going to figure out how we can run this business on real facts and figures and numbers, and not emotions and sort of that subjective decision-making that sometimes drives decisions in entrepreneurial companies. We got to make sure that you're running your business on real facts and figures. Now, Clinton, when we get your vision component right, and your people component right, your data component right, your business will become a little more transparent. We're going to start to find those imperfections and impurities and challenges and problems that you have. And we got to get really, really good at solving those problems as they arise. And we call that your issues component. And so we're going to help you become great at solving those problems as they arise, and finishing off those issues and then moving on to better ones. Because when Gino created EOS, he created it because he saw two different kinds of companies. He was looking at companies, he's like, man, these 95% of these people over here are like working their tails off, spinning their wheels, not really getting anywhere. But these other 5% over here, they're also kind of working their tails off, because that's kind of what we do as business owners and entrepreneurs. But these guys are making progress. And what's the difference? And the difference is those 5%, they're solving their problems on a regular basis, and they're moving on to the next set of problems, because the problems never end. We get better problems. The 95%, those guys are dealing with the same problems over and over and over again in what we call like the worst case of business deja vu ever. Okay. So we got to get really, really good at solving our problems and not wrapping them up in duct tape and twine and shoving them in a corner. We got to solve them. We got to solve them at the root. We got to make sure that all of your systems and processes are documented. And so we work on your process component. We make sure that, your handful of core processes are really systemized and documented to a 80-20 kind of entrepreneurial level. Yep. We're not trying to build a 700-page SOP manual here that nobody ever looks at. We're going to get really, really clear on what those core processes are, and we're going to get them documented and get them followed by all. Because anybody who touches one of those core processes, if we can get them to do those the right way and the best way every time, it's going to lead to a better business. It's going to lead to a better life. It's going to lead to more profit. And then we're going to take all of that. We're going to bring all of this vision down to the ground, and we're going to talk about traction. We're going to bring that vision down to the ground, and we're going to execute on it with discipline and accountability. So I'm going to teach you guys how to create a great quarterly plan, how to have great meetings, and all of those things. So does it work in home service? Absolutely. I mean, if we can solve those we can take those 6 key components of your business and make you 80% or stronger in each of those, you're going to run a great business.
Now, you have the luxury of not only being an entrepreneur yourself, but now that you've got just really clients in all types of services there, in terms of folks that you're working with and implementing EOS, what are the most common problems that you're seeing a lot of these small businesses have? and how specifically has EOS helped them solve those problems? Please don't talk about me and my agency, because God knows we had a lot of problems and you certainly have been a part of the solution there. But just if we look at your book of business and the clients that you work with, are there some specific business or specific problems that you see a lot of these small businesses have, and how have you been able to, through EOS, help them to address those problems?
Man, there's a lot. And so there's a lot that we could dig into there, but let's talk about people. Do you have people in your business?
Well, I do. We've got a lot of them now.
You're going to have some challenges, right? And if you have, the more people you have, the more challenges you're going to have here. So the people component is really, really important. I mean, all the components of your business are really important. We got the three legs of the stool kind of ideas or concept. We got to make sure that sales and marketing is strong. We got to make sure that your delivery, your product, your service is strong. We got to make sure your finance is strong. Because if any of those things are weak, well then, your business is weak. And so, but people in general, we got to make sure we put the right people in the right seats. Now, what are right people? Right people are people that fit your core values. These are people you want to be around, people that you love, people that if you could clone them, or if you had 100 of that one person, you could take over the world. And we're going to show you what it looks like to be a great person in your company. And we're going to show you how to take those core values and hire with them and review with them and reward with them and recognize your team with them. And we're going to build a great culture in your business. That's one of the biggest keys to success of all, is we got to have the right people in the right seats. Now, right seats, what does that mean? Those are people who are great at their jobs. These are people with God-given skills and talent and the ability to learn and grow. And we have to have both right people and right seats. But there's a lot of different challenges that businesses have. Some of them have great people. They just don't have great structure or don't understand how to move the business forward. And if I were to sort of describe it, I think I would say that my job as EOS Implementer is to help you get from point A to point B as efficiently as possible. Now, how do we get from point A to point B? Well, number one, we got to know what point B looks like. So we got to create a great vision. Number two, we got to know who's going to do that work. So we got to build a great team of people that understands their role and understands their responsibilities and knows exactly what we expect of them. And then we got to lay that out for them. Number three, we got to continue to operate our business as it exists today. And so we still got to go out, we got to sell, and we can't abandon all that stuff and come into this new system. We still got to go sell. We still got to deliver the product or service, and we still got to collect the money. But number four, we've got to build the company that we've dreamed of. And so we've got to figure out, what does that look like? What does the company that we dreamed of really look like? And we got to have a plan to get that. And then number five, of course, I think that we have to have a system of discipline and accountability that can help hold us accountable to get all that work done. So EOS maps perfectly to those five things, and that's kind of what we do.
So being that my agency works specifically with restoration companies, and we've got over 130 restoration companies that we're working with right now, I see all kinds of entrepreneurs that have entered that space. Some of them are people that started as technicians or project managers working for other companies and kind of have leveled up and decided to go out and hang their own shingle. We've also got folks that are coming from corporate America that have a lot of the business acumen necessary to create that structure. But for those that didn't necessarily come from that structured background of corporate America, and this restoration company is their first endeavor into entrepreneurship, one of the things that might be intimidating for them is this idea of documenting processes, creating SOPs. So can you talk a little bit about how EOS can really help them in terms of structuring, creating that system? Because you mentioned before the processes and being able to put people in the seats with a kind of guidelines of how they would execute on their job. That's a really important part of building a successful business there. So for those that are intimidated by the idea of kind of taking all the things that they know they need to do in their business and actually documenting those processes and creating SOPs, how can EOS help that person?
Well, number one, first thing I want to say is the first leadership ability that we teach you in EOS is the ability to simplify. And so we're going to simplify everything. Okay. We're not going to overcomplicate any process. We're going to come up with the 20% of the steps that get us 80% of the way there.
Gotcha.
Right? And so we're not going to overcomplicate these processes. We have a handful of core processes. Yeah. This is how we hire and fire, sort of an HR process. We've got our sales process. We've got our process for how we handhold our customers, kind of customer service. How do we deliver the product or service? We have certain operational processes for how we actually do the job of restoration.
Right.
We got processes around maybe around finance and how we collect the money. We got to make sure those core processes are really done well. Now, of course, there's more processes in your business, but we are going to take that 20/80 entrepreneurial approach to make sure that we get those handful of core processes documented well.
Yeah. Processes is really important, and EOS has their own very special process, kind of unique process that when someone is working with an implementer like yourself, that you take someone through. So can you walk us through what the process looks like for a business that is meeting with you and ultimately using you to implement EOS?
Certainly. We have a proven process in our business, and we teach our clients to build one too. And essentially what a proven process is, Clinton, is it's a graphical representation of the journey that you take, that I take every one of my clients through to help them install this system and have success and growth. And so the EOS process starts with what we call a 90-minute meeting. And this is just a free 90-minute meeting where I meet with you and your leadership team, and I cover some very important things. I learn about you. You learn about me. I open up the EOS fire hose and I show you the entire system. And then I show you our proven process to kind of show you what it's like to work with us, or what it would look like to implement EOS. If you like what happens in that 90-minute meeting, of course, there's no charge for that. We're like Oprah a little bit. You get a 90-minute meeting. You get a 90-minute like you get a 90-minute. Like, okay, we'll do the 90-minute. If you want a 90-minute meeting, I'll do a 90-minute meeting with you. So, but if you like what happens in that meeting, we're going to schedule what's called Focus Day. And Focus Day is a full day together. It's 7 hours plus or minus an hour, and we're going to really dig into your business. We're going to start by teaching you those 5 leadership abilities. I only gave you one of them, the ability to simplify, but there's 4 others. We're going to teach you this. We're going to build out your accountability chart. We're going to start to put the right people in the right seats, and we're going to build your accountability chart for what your company needs to look like 6 to 12 months from now.
Okay.
Not what it looks like yesterday, not what it looks like now, but what is the business we're trying to build? And so we're going to figure that out. We're going to start putting the right people in the right seats.
Okay.
Then we're going to build your first set of rocks, which are, what are your biggest business priorities for the next 90 days? And we'll take you through a rock setting exercise. Okay. We are going to teach you the level 10 meeting, which is, how you can just have one great meeting every week that kind of eliminates all those other crappy meetings that most of us have, where people get on there and just talk and talk and talk and talk and just loves hearing their voice. We're going to give you a great structure for a one meeting that can be your most effective hour and a half of the week. And then we're going to take the first shot at your scorecard. And remember, I talked about having KPIs or metrics that give us a pulse on our business. I want to make sure we have a great scorecard at the leadership level so that when we look at it, we know, hey, are we on track or are we off track this week? Are we having a good week this week, bad week this week? Okay. Now that's Focus Day. If you like what happened with Focus Day, we're going to schedule the next 2 days, which are 2 vision building days. Now in vision building day 1, of course, we're going to go backwards, and we're going to make sure that we're working out the kinks and the bugs and making sure that you guys are really understanding the work we've done so far, because this is spaced learning.
Right.
I can't just dump all of this on you in one day. It just wouldn't work. And so I'm going to go back and we're going to work through all of those things again. And then we're going to take a step and we're going to start building the vision for this company. And we do that by answering 8 questions, something we call our VTO, which are our Vision Traction Organizer. Number 1, what are your core values? Number 2, what is your core focus? Number 3, what is your core target? And that's about the end of vision building day 1.
Okay.
30 days later, we do vision building day 2. We, again, go backwards, make sure you're understanding the tools, working out the kinks and the bugs and the stuff you've learned so far. And then we go ahead and we build out your marketing strategy. We build out your 3-year picture, because we want to know exactly what the company looks like 3 years from now. We're going to build your 1-year plan, and then we're going to build a new set of rocks for you to go forward for the next 90 days. So after 60 days, basically after our first 3 sessions together, you're going to have this system in place. You'll have mastered the Focus Day tools. You'll be using EOS in your company, and you're going to start growing. And we're going to move to a sort of an execution cycle where I just come in and I just run your quarterlies and annuals as long as you need me. Now, at some point, you're just going to get it, and you're going to like, we got this, and we're doing EOS, and we don't need Lyn anymore, and it's great. And you graduate, right? Mm-hmm. You've learned all the tools. You've learned what I've taken you as far as I can take you. Now you guys got this. And really that's my job, Clinton. My job is to teach you this system, help you install these simple tools and get the heck out of your way. But now, to be fair, some people do keep their implementer forever. I would say this is probably a 2-year process of us working together. Some more, some less. And again, some people keep their implementer forever because there is really a lot of power in this outside third-party voice coming in and run these sessions for you and letting all of your team members like really participate, not have to run these meetings themselves.
We're going to talk about that third-party voice because that had a bigger impact, I think, than anything when it came to having you sit in on our quarterly and our annual sessions there. Before we do that, though, one thing I want to point out to the audience is even though you live in Louisiana, right?
That's right.
You hold these sessions, whether it's remotely with teams all over the country, or you actually physically will travel to the locations for some of these businesses as well, right?
That's correct. Of my clients, I think about 75% or so are virtual. And so we do virtual sessions. Okay. We get a Zoom call and I bring all the technology and we make sure that you have a great session. But also if it makes sense and your team's all in person, I can travel to you and we can do our sessions in a session room near you or a conference room near you or in your office, that sort of thing. So yes, I will travel, but I also have virtual as an option.
Awesome. So I remember when we originally got this book, and I'm going through my second read of it now. But myself, my business partners, we consider ourselves really smart guys. So after tearing through this book, we thought, hey, this is the game plan. We're very capable of executing on this game plan. We have great leadership. We built out a great leadership team. So we decided to try to self-implement the practices in Traction, in Gino Wickman's book there. We tried. Some of the stuff worked, some of it didn't work. However, we reached a point where we decided, hey, there's probably some value in bringing a third party in to help. Officiate is not the right word, but
sometimes it is.
But it was impactful for us to bring in another voice, right? Because when you have a leadership team, you have a few owners of the business, the person that's ultimately driving the meeting doesn't really get to participate in the same way as everyone else on the leadership team there. So we started using you last year. You sat through a number of our quarterly planning sessions, and that's really been really impactful for me and my business partners in that we all get to participate as opposed to trying to oversee the meeting there. So for those of you who have not read Traction, go out, get a copy. You're going to try and self-implement because everybody does, I feel like, Lyn. Everybody takes the game plan and thinks they can run with it. But what have you seen? Like, I know how it impacted our business, right? Again, allowing everybody on the leadership team to be a participant instead of someone having to oversee the meeting. What have you seen folks that did try to self-implement versus bringing you in? What are their, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the value? Where's the biggest value that they have from having an implementer come in and work with them?
There's a lot, I think. I think the difference is, well, one, self-implementing EOS or the EOS system is simple, but not easy.
Yeah.
And I think the more that you do EOS, the more that you realize that every word of Traction and every word of our 90-minute meeting is intentional because they're so perfect and so powerful. And when you try to do stuff yourself, you improvise and you change the parts and you just don't realize that you changed it. And next thing you know, you're running a different meeting than the level 10 meeting.
100%.
It's all of this stuff is super intentional. And in a lot of ways, it's almost like that. There's a commercial. I don't know if it's a Geico or one of those where they have this dad's telling his son what to do. And the kid's like, yeah. And then TV dad tells him and he's like, hey, that's a great idea. It's almost like that in a lot of ways is I'm the TV dad that comes in and shares the information with you in a way that you're not hearing it from your visionary, because your visionary for years has been coming with a million ideas and they've been going, hey guys, let's do this and let's do this and let's do this and let's do this. And that gets, honestly, it gets tiresome to a lot of team members. And it's different hearing it from me. And I don't know why exactly, but it's super powerful for me to come in and run these meetings because, quite frankly, in your case, your visionary was having to run this session. Now we've taken your visionary completely out of the actual meeting itself where he's just focused on like, oh, I got to run it like this and I got to do, he's got to learn this whole system. I mean, we just took one huge core piece of your leadership team out essentially that day. And I think having him participate in these meetings and to be able to share his voice and his vision with you guys has really made a big difference in your company. And I see it over and over and over again.
One of the other big takeaways that I had in terms of you working with us and our leadership team, there's a level of accountability that seems to get raised a little bit, right? Like if you go out and you work out with a personal trainer, right? You can go through the motions, you know what exercises you're supposed to do. You have an idea of how many sets and how many reps you're supposed to do. But when you have a personal trainer there to hold you accountable, it increases the level of accountability. So do you see that a lot with the clients that you work with?
Yeah, that's huge. I have a company that I work with who has they're getting close to a $2 billion evaluation. Oof. And it's really amusing to me that their owners and leadership teams come up to me at a conference like, Lyn, we got all of our rocks done. And it was, and I was like, well, that's great. And I love it. But it's that level of accountability is so powerful because they didn't want to disappoint me and they wanted to make sure that they got all that stuff done. And having me come in, let's be honest, there's this procrastination model where if I sign something to you today and I tell you it's due in 90 days, what's the activity level look like? What's flat until like, oh shit, Lyn's coming.
Yeah, only got a week to do this.
Right. Hey, it's due tomorrow. We gotta get on it, right? And then of course we have tools to help you get around that too, because we have a weekly level 10 meeting where we check in and we make sure that you guys are actually making progress. Are you on track or are you off track? And we kind of bust that procrastination model because you don't have time to procrastinate if I'm talking to you every single week, or not me, but I mean your leadership team's having that level 10 every week.
Right. We had the pleasure of working with all different sizes of restoration companies. So I've got clients that have worked with us for years that when we originally started working with them, they were an owner operator, kind of a one-man operation. They had the equipment, they got day laborers when they needed to. And we have watched them scale up to now they have multiple service vehicles, multiple technicians, an office manager, all these other roles in the organization that they didn't have before. We also work with huge restoration companies that have multiple locations, doing multiple six figures a year in revenue. Our audience consists of all of that. So is there a stage or a level a home service business should be in before they consider implementing EOS, and more importantly, hiring someone to implement EOS in their business?
Yeah, 100%. I think obviously doing EOS by yourself would be a little silly. It's a little bit overkill for that. Yeah. And so our target market as an EOS implementer is privately held entrepreneurial companies with between 10 and 250 employees. Yeah. There's a certain amount of revenue that you have to have probably, and I don't know what it is in your industry because I don't know the profit margins, but hiring the EOS implementer does cost money. And so you've got to account for that. But the most important part of this is that you are building a leadership team who's open-minded, respectful, appreciative, growth-oriented, frustrated, you want help, and you're willing to be open and honest and vulnerable with yourself and the people around you. Because if you want this company to run and you want to have the best evaluation of your company, you want your company to be worth something, you've got to build a great leadership team and kind of elevate yourself above that, up into that visionary role where you're doing visionary stuff and the work's just getting done and you've built a great culture. And so if that's where you're at, if you're like, man, I just want to turn the corner in my business, I want to take the next step, shoot, let's have a quick conversation about to see if EOS might be a good fit for you.
So there's an additional service that you added on recently, and is Exit Planning Advisor. So we have in the restoration space, and this is home services across the board, we're seeing an influx in private equity money. These private equity groups coming in, buying whether it's one location or multiple locations, merging those business together, streamlining operations. When an entrepreneur starts a restoration company, they may have a goal of building something that they can leave to their children and their children's children, kind of a legacy business, right? Other people getting into the restoration space understand that this is a means to an end for them, right? They have very clear goals and they have a very clear idea that, hey, when I get to this business to a certain point, I want to sell it. And this is going to be what builds generational wealth for my family. So with your exit planning services, tell us a little bit about what that looks like and how you help prepare that entrepreneur that ultimately has the goal of selling their business one day.
Certainly. So I'm what's considered a certified exit planning advisor. And so I'm a CEPA, which means I help business owners develop exit plans to maximize their sales price or transition value of their company. Of course, there's a lot to it. There's more to it than that. But to simplify it, I want to make sure that you get the maximum value for your business. I want to make sure that you have a great plan for yourself after the sale. I want to make sure that we come into your business and we got to take a look at where you are now and kind of get an evaluation of your business the way it sits. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we're de-risking our business, because those M&A guys, those mergers acquisition guys, they're really, really good at coming into your company and devaluing.
They're vultures. You can say it.
I'm not going to say it. But I work with some of those guys.
Okay,
I want to keep my friendships. I want to keep my relationships with those people really, really good. But honestly, they're looking for a couple of things. They don't want to buy a risky company. So we've got to de-risk you, and what that means is we got to make sure. Well, let's just talk about valuation really quick. Let's talk about the industry sets the value, and the value is kind of a range of multiples. Let's just say it's between 1x and 6x. I don't know what it is in restoration, but let's just call it that. You don't control that. That's an industry standard. It's either between 1 and 6x. What you do control is where you fall in that multiple. Okay. And so what we do is we help you, first of all, the revenue in your business is only 20% of that calculation. The rest of the calculation is these 4 intangible capitals, like your human capital, your customer capital, structural capital, your social capital. And human capital really is, if you've got a strong mixture of talent, experience, resilience, motivation in your team, the value of your company increases, right? All things being, equal, the stronger your human capital is, the more value that you have in the market. Let's talk about customer capital. Customer capital is the strength of the relationships with your best customers.
Sure.
So we got to make sure that we have deep and integrated relationships and recurring revenue and contractual relationships and a diversified customer base. All of those things are things that contribute to a strong customer capital. And then, of course, we can talk about structural capital, which is essentially the infrastructure of your business. It's your processes, it's your financials, it's your strategies, it's your technology, it's your patents, it's your intellectual property. Is all of that know-how in your business is documented, right?
Right.
Is it something that can transfer? And then, of course, we have social capital. This is the last of the 4 intangible capitals, and this is your company culture. This is what elevates a company from just standard to best in class, right? And those best in class, if you can elevate yourself to best in class in all of these, you'll end up at the high end of the multiple. And so we got to make sure that we communicate well. We want to know what your team believes in. We want to know that they're going to be around without the leader. We got to make sure that we're operating in our communities and how do we contribute to our communities? And I don't know, social intelligence is just one of those great predictors of success when it comes to selling our companies. And so we got to make sure, and honestly, EOS is like the perfect fit. It just lays right on top of those 4 intangible capitals, because we want to make sure that we have great human capital, great customers, and great structure and great culture. EOS is the fix for a poor valuation. And so, and again, happy to jump on a call with anybody who wants to talk through the process of exit planning, but I want to make sure that we're getting maximum value for your business, and we have a great plan for you after. Because there's a statistic out there. It's like, I think it's 75% of people who sell their business regret it in the first 2 years.
Wow,
it's a really high number. We got to make sure that we have a great plan for your exit. We have a great plan for you after exit.
Wow. We may bring you back for another episode just to talk about exit planning, because there's a lot of people in this space that ultimately that's their goal, is to sell this business. So, Lyn, it's really been a pleasure to have you on. I hope my audience got a lot of value out of this. If somebody's listening to this right now and they find themselves in that sweet spot that you described, right? They've got the team members, they've got the revenue. They just need some guidance to make sure that this thing is on the rails so that they can get that business to their vivid vision. In 3 years, 5 years, whether it's 90 days from now. How could somebody reach out to you to schedule that free 90-minute session with their leadership team?
I'm super easy to find, Clinton. I have a very uncommon name. I'm probably the only Lyn Askin on the planet. So if you were to type that into any one of those search engines,
but you got to spell it right.
I'll make sure that we have some links for you in the show notes or whatever. But if you go to lynaskin.com/EOS15, we can jump on a quick 15-minute call. Phone numbers on there, forms on there. You can just go to lynaskin.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, any of the socials. I'm happy to respond to any of those. Right. But I'll make sure that you have, after this call, that you have all the correct links and things for people to get to.
Yeah, if you are listening to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, whatever it is, we will make sure that we put Lyn's contact information in the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can use the links below to reach out to him. So, Lyn, again, it has been a pleasure to have you on. I hope my audience got a lot out of this conversation. I really thank everybody for sticking around. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. We'll be back with more interviews and insights from entrepreneurs and really smart people like Lyn. Thanks again for having us, or for jumping on here today, Lyn. For all the audience, please stay safe. It's almost storm season, so stay dry and hopefully stay busy. Thank you, guys. Thank you again, Lyn.
Thanks, Clinton. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe, share, and also leave us a 5-star review. We'll be back with more interviews and discussions with restoration industry leaders really soon. In the meantime, if you're a restoration company looking to add more high-value water jobs, you can reach me and my team at waterrestorationmarketing.net. Again, that's waterrestorationmarketing.net. I look forward to hearing from you soon.